This season of Love is Blind has had its fair share of ups and downs and the usual dramatic characters, but I was not expecting for Kenneth to blindside me. Let's get into that and more in our recap of season 6, episode 8. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more Love is Blind recaps and pop culture celebrity news. Okay, let's go. So, at the top of the episode, Chelsea's fake speaking voice is just annoying the hell out of me. I find it to be so forced, and I just don't know why she insists on speaking like a child. She reminds me of Chelsea from Teen Mom 2, which is ironically her namesake. Now, she shows Jimmy her apartment, and we get to see like only 2 seconds of it and a little second of her roommate, who Jimmy already claims to not like. I guess the roommate is too peppy for him or something like that. Next, we see Jimmy's apartment, which is also nice, but again, we don't spend too much time there. But we do get to spend a little bit more time in Clay's house. He's got an actual big, beautiful home and he owns it. I'm super proud of him. I think he's the only like actual homeowner on this season of the show. Jeremy shows Laura his home and it's gorgeous too, but remember, he doesn't own it. He used to own a different home, but he sold it because he wanted to buy a home together with his future wife, which I thought was rather beautiful. And then next up, we see Kenneth's house where the fridge is empty, but the pantry is full of junk food and some spices. I'm sorry, but this man needs to eat properly. Like, I only ever see him eating junk food, and it's just not good, especially at this age, like to be so lethargic and stuff. I feel like it has to do with the junk food. Like, let's get some energy going, with some proper nutrition. So why was Kenneth on the phone in the middle of a conversation with Brittany? He's just always on his phone. I got it, like when they were at the house and she was wanting to unpack in episode 7 and he had to tend to some stuff with the school. But like, it's starting to seem like this is like his third arm, Brittany talks to him about how flat and dry he's been ever since they got back from their honeymoon. And I do feel bad for her because she has been trying really hard to connect with him, but he's kind of just been shutting her down at every turn. Like, it's like he checked out. I first noticed it like in episode 7 when they were on that boat and she was like, wow, what a beautiful day. The breeze, like, love being on the ocean. And he's just like, poor girl. Now in Chelsea land again, she's got her friends coming over and she explains that her pod experience to them. And she talks a lot about Trevor, and actually more so Trevor than Jimmy to the girls. Meanwhile, Jimmy was upstairs, so she was telling the girls to keep it down while she spilled that tea. So all she said about Jimmy was that a bunch of girls were after him. All right, I'm pretty sure it was just Jessica, but okay. And she also complains that Jimmy is always on his phone and that he hadn't kissed her all day. And she knows that Jimmy saw a photo of Jessica. I think it was through Jeremy or something like that. And they said that like she looks like a Kardashian or whatever, which, obviously is like, yeah, like she's stunning. She looks like she's got, all this like beautiful work done or whatever. So it sounds like Chelsea is shook. It's kind of like I said in one of my earlier recaps. I don't remember if it's episode 3, 4, 5, or 6, but I said that I think that Chelsea chose Jimmy because in her mind, she wanted to compete against the Kardashian, Jessica, versus who she would have been more compatible, which seemed to be Trevor, someone who was all about her. And that's what she needs as like a clingy person who needs a lot of reassurance. I did find it rather strange that her friends asked about Jimmy's penis size, like on TV. It was just very rude and weird. Like, imagine men sitting around asking for like, oh, what's her boob size? How tight is it? That type of stuff. Like, girls, we really got to do better and stop with this type of thing. Now, Jimmy comes downstairs from work and he chats with Chelsea's friends. And they also talk about him wanting to have 3 kids. He's like, yeah, ideally, but I am flexible because my brother also said that he wanted like 3 kids. And then he had one. He's like, actually, I'm done at this point. So he knows that like things can change, and maybe even for Chelsea on her end as well. Her friends tell Jimmy that he looks nothing like her usual type. More evidence that she was better off with Trevor, right? And then at this point, I guess Jimmy was insulted because he decided to take Chelsea down a peg. She goes, oh, well, you know what? She claims she looked like Megan Fox. So I guess, neither of us are, getting what we think we're getting then, which I thought was kind of like rude. And so Chelsea called to her friends for backup. She's like, listen, like, who do people always say I look like? They said Carrie Underwood. And then they said, oh yeah, Megan Fox is up there too. So I guess either they practiced this together in the backyard before they came back inside, or this is something that she actually gets. But to be real, you guys, listen, Megan Fox has changed her face many, many times. Okay, now she's very like stretched, like ponytail pulled back type stretched or snatched. But before, when she had like the big bright blue eyes and stuff, she did look a lot like Chelsea, and Chelsea even has her nose as well. But things didn't stay like too negative like that. Luckily, Jimmy did kind of save himself by saying that Chelsea is his type and that she's perfect. But listen, I feel like I don't know that I believe he's being authentic just based on him getting that Megan shot dig in again, you know? Now, Johnny and Amy agree to buy a house together as soon as possible, and he tells her that he wants to retire early, so he wants to live as frugally as possible in the interim. But Amy is trying to encourage him to live in the now. It's great you want to retire early, but you really never know when it's your time to go. So enjoy the little moments in life as well. Don't be too stingy waiting for the future. Okay. And I do think that that was great advice. I think that they can balance each other out. Like maybe she's too much in that direction. I don't know. And maybe he's too much in his direction, which is what it's sounding like she feels of him. Now, why are these two in such a rush to get pregnant? They said that they were thinking about doing it in a year or something like that. I was like, calm it down. You guys don't even know each other like that. You're still young. Aren't they like 27 years old or something like that? Like, you're good. That kind of weirded me out. I got to be honest. So Johnny brings up birth control. Remember, in episode 7, he told Laura that he and Amy are not having intercourse because he's scared of knocking her up because she's not on birth control. And so here he is talking to Amy about it. And so he's like, well, you don't want birth control for hormonal reasons or whatever. And she's like, what about you getting a vasectomy? I'm like, y'all want a kid in a year and you're telling this man to get a vasectomy now? And then y'all will reverse it in a year. I'm sorry, but that sounds so stupid. Honestly, I had to go back and look at how old these people were. I'm like, do they not have ex-ed in school? Do they not have information on the internet for these people who clearly don't know much about reproductive health to learn? Like, I was actually quite sad for them. Like, why are, like, apparently for Johnny, condoms don't provide enough reassurance that there's not going to be an accidental pregnancy, which I get. This is why you layer up your methods. You use condoms, then you track ovulation, okay? And then, I was gonna say pull out, but you don't really need to. But if you're this paranoid, then pull out even with a condom on, you know? Like you've got all of these things to help you. Like you're not going to accidentally, like the likelihood is really, really low, you know, for people like this. So the fact that they're just not gonna sleep with each other because they're so scared is kind of ridiculous to me. And her being not wanting to be on birth control might be a deal breaker and all that too. Like it sounded so ridiculous. I almost had to laugh, but then I kind of wanted to cry because this is just so ignorant, you know? Like I feel bad for them that they're this ignorant about reproductive health. It's just really strange, to be honest with you. But anyway, let's go back on to something else that actually made me want to cry. Brittany, she and Kenneth are in the kitchen and she tells him that she didn't feel a strong desire or craving for him. And he says, okay, well, if you don't feel that way, I personally feel one toward, and he's so flat. I personally feel it towards you, but you don't feel it? Okay, I'm not going to force it, whatever. You know, I was like, okay. And so he points out the times that he has tried to be physically close to her and that she pushed him off. But he's like, yeah, like, you know, like the time you woke up at 1 a.m, I tried to like cuddle with you, but you wanted me off so you can go back to sleep. What? Like, that's just so crazy. It feels like he's coming up with excuses and he's not serious because what is that? So Brittany says that she finds it awkward that they've barely kissed and they haven't even made out. And I was like, I knew it. I knew I wasn't going crazy. You see all these other people kiss ad nauseum to the point where I'm like fast forwarding or putting my thing on mute because I'm so sick of the sound of people kissing. It's just too much on this show. But these people, you really never see that level of desire. I know that they wanted to wait for marriage, but there still has to be some kind of lust, passion, desire, want. You know what I mean? Because the marriage is in a couple of weeks. So you can go ahead, preheat the oven a little bit on your way there, right? So Kenneth says that it doesn't sound like Brittany feels strong enough about him to get married. And then again, he just seems so cold and unaffected by it. It really feels like he does not care, which has to hurt for Brittany because it sounds like she's trying to make it work with him. He says it's not going to work out and he wants her to find like her person down the road. I was like, and he was so flat about it. He's like, well, you don't seem to like me. Go, it's not going to work out. I hope you find your person. Weren't you just saying this was the love of your life like days ago? This is so weird. Like, what happened? There was a moment where the switch flipped for Kenneth, and I want to know on behalf of Brittany and my nosy ass when that happened, right? A lot of people are theorizing that perhaps he was thrown off by the conversation with AD when she was like, "Do you normally date white women?" And he was like, "No, this is the first one." And then she's like, "Do you think this white woman can raise black kids?" Maybe like that got to him. I don't know. I'm not in his head, but that is something that a lot of people are speculating. But it is rather sad either way that he didn't communicate like the anxieties and the fears that he was having, because maybe he didn't feel like Brittany, Miss, you identify as black, is capable of raising black children, but communicate that. This was your fiance. Like, it's just really weird, you guys, to be honest with you. And like, as soon as he like dumps his fiance, he just gets back to playing on his phone immediately. And it wasn't cool. And so he's like, they have like their goodbye hug. And she's like, I don't want to let go. And she's just breaking down. And then he lets her go and he goes upstairs on his phone to his friend, like, yeah, I'll be right over. Oh, you are so cold, Kenneth. Mr. Reverend, Mr. School Principal, like really. And she's just left alone downstairs crying. And it's horrible, you guys. It doesn't feel like Kenneth was serious. Like, it feels like he's got a big block somewhere that he's not able to communicate. And I feel like he wasted Brittany's time, to be honest with you. It wasn't good. Meanwhile, back at Chelsea and Jimmy's home, Chelsea is having another meltdown and she's whining about Jimmy not kissing her. She's so negative, this girl. She's always just crying about something with no tears, mind you. They talk about Jimmy and Jeremy thinking that Jess looks like a Kardashian, like they were really talking her up. And Chelsea says it makes her feel insecure that he might feel like he chose wrong, which, listen, I totally get. And Chelsea, I will give you your props for being brave enough and clear enough to articulate enough to voice that, because again, we're seeing in some of these other couples that there are underlying issues, but they're not able to communicate what those things are. And it looks like Chelsea is able to do that. So, she also complains that it feels like Jimmy is nonchalant when he tells her that he loves her and not like, I love you from the depths of my heart. I will bleed for you. Like that kind of thing that she wants. It's like, listen, girl, this is what happens when you choose the guy who wasn't even sure about you up until the last minute. You had a guy that was ready to give you every single thing you wanted, who was giving you 1,000 love taps a day from that matching loving bracelet you gave him. You had that and you chose the other guy because you wanted to compete against Chelsea. You wanted to prove to yourself that you were worthy. You didn't believe that you were. And so you wanted to choose someone who would confirm your beliefs that you are not worthy. And that is exactly what you got, Chelsea. Do I feel bad for her? Absolutely, because this is something that goes down on a subconscious level. It's not something that she just went out and chose, most of our decisions are subconscious. And so I think that she just needs to work on that. This is not going to work out. Okay. I think we're all aware of that. So I think that she needs to work on that, trauma that she might have moving forward before getting into her next relationship. But it sucks to watch play out, especially when everything she was looking for, a guy was begging her to accept from him, and he was her physical type a lot more than Jimmy is too. So all this for what? To beat Jessica? All right, congratulations. You beat Jessica and you're miserable. Now what? Anyway, guys, that does it. A recap of what went down on Love is Blind Season 6, Episode 8. As usual, I'm more excited to hear what you have to say. So please make sure to leave all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below and we'll chat. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already and like this video if you enjoyed it. Bye now.